For decades, no one talked about the race massacre. Even for many who went through it, those conversations faded over time. As we approach the Centennial, our Vincent Hill is going in depth to tell some of the stories that were nearly lost. Tonight, meet the descendant of one of the survivors who is learning now about her true family history.
My name is Brenda Nails Alford.
Brenda knows the history of her family business.
My grandparents, James and Bassanor Nails Sr., along with my great-uncle Henry Nails, were the proud owners of the Nails Brothers Shoe Shop and Record Shop that was located at 121 North Greenwood Avenue.
But a letter she received is rewriting the history she knew growing up.
I read that letter 5 times, wondering to myself, why was I receiving it and what exactly did it mean?
Brenda calls her childhood normal.
Just living right off Greenwood was an exceptional experience for a little kid.
Surrounded by everything she and her family needed.
There was an ice cream parlor that we went to sometimes after church. There were drugstores right around the corner, jewelry stores, barbecue restaurants, soul food restaurants.
Brenda says while growing up, academics topped all priorities.
The call of the community was to get your education and to be your best and do your best and to be respectful.
But the lessons outside the classroom about the history of her neighborhood stuck with Brenda the most.
My sister and I had this thing about we'd like to sit under the dining room table and listen to grown folk conversation as little kids.
Eventually, the table talk and history story stopped.
As time went on, no one really talked about it anymore, and it just kind of faded away.
In the 1960s, the once vibrant Greenwood community Brenda knew was torn down brick by brick.
It was urban renewal, or removal, as some of our community members would call it.
Making room for new businesses and roads. Now, back to that letter and how it changed Brenda's life in 2003.
Myself and many others were being included in a lawsuit against the city of Tulsa regarding reparations for the survivors and the descendants of survivors of the 1921 race massacre.
That's when Brenda knew the table talk was about her family.
I realized that stories that I had heard as a little girl were actually stories about the race massacre.
Stories about her grandmother.
I always knew that my grandmother had to hide in a church, but I never knew why.
And about a cemetery her family passed almost every day.
And when we would pass by Oaklawn Cemetery, the older folks in the car would always say, "You know they're still over there." And everybody in the car would agree.
Brenda began researching how her family was impacted by the race massacre and came across this book.
Old and young had to pile onto trucks. And when we were being driven through town, men could be seen clapping their hands, rejoicing over our condition.
It wasn't until 2020 that Brenda realized the woman in this picture on the back of the truck was her great-grandmother, Rosetta Moore. Now Brenda says it's up to all of us to learn history's lesson so they won't be forgotten.
It is up to us, the generations to come after, to be our best and to do our best to move forward in this life as best we can.
In Tulsa, Vincent Hill, 2 News.